Hello. Yeah, I'm 41.
All right, 41-year-old Andrew, what you want to talk about?
Well, I was hoping I could kind of steel man your position to make sure that I understand it. I was listening to your last call. I thought it was interesting. Is your steel man that due to bodily, or is the steel man here due to bodily autonomy, clear up until even the nine month period in a pregnancy, that the woman in this case should have the right to reject the baby because it's inside of her body?
One second here. I'm not familiar with the term steel man. What does that mean?
It just means I'm just want to make sure I get your position right. And so instead of straw manning your position by saying what it's not, I'm trying to steel man your position by making sure I know exactly what it is.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that sharing of that terminology. Yeah, so I think that's accurate, but I'll just restate my position just to
Sure.
make sure that we understand it.
Mhm.
So I maintain that someone has a justified claim to their body. I underpin that with observations because I can simply state that, and you may or may not agree with it, which is fine. But to help convince you that someone has a justified claim to their body, I use these certain observations to help underpin that. The first observation is that we are biological matter with biological processes. The second observation is that someone is occupying or using that biological matter and processes in some way. And the third observation is that only they can use that body in the way they use it. Only they can control that body. So with that, I call bodily mastery. So looking at those three elements, what I say is
Can
that
I get
that's
you to
enough for
clarify
me.
just one thing very quickly?
Yeah.
So I actually I would just go ahead and concede to all of those points, but to
Okay.
make sure that I have them correct, point one is that everybody has biological mastery, meaning they're in a body, and only you, the person, can use the body. And that's what you're saying, right? You're a person inside a body, and only you can use the body, the
Yeah, and the term
biological
I use
matter.
there is biological processes matter, and then bodily mastery is the term I use there. They have bodily mastery,
Okay.
so
So that
they
would apply
only.
to the actual fetus itself, right?
I mean, well, sure, you can say the fetus has body mastery. That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can say the fetus has body mastery. Only it can control his body in a way it controls his body, whatever that means in
Yeah.
terms of that context.
Okay, that
But
makes
yeah,
sense.
sure,
Yeah.
bodily mastery applies there. So I maintain that yes, a right exists to your body. A justified claim to that body exists, and that can be used to underpin agreements. For example, first use, distribution principles, first in time principles. That if we're going to talk about who has a claim to something, the person with the most accurate claim to their body is indeed that person who is occupying that body. So that is how I underpin a claim that's justified to the body for those
Okay.
who need something to
But in this
finish.
case, both have a claim to their body.
Sure, if you want to say that, yeah, you can say that. You can say that.
But
Yeah,
I mean, from
but
your
what,
view,
what, I,
that's
what, I, what, I,
also
what I'm
true, right?
saying, you said what?
From your view, that's also true.
Well, yeah, I would say that the elements are there, right? The fetus biological matter, biological
Hmm.
processes. It has, again, the ability to use that in a way no one else can. And it
Hmm.
has, again, that mastery component because it has the most accurate claim to their body. Sure. The most important thing I like to say here is agreements, right? So we're talking about if someone agrees to that, yeah, we can say that there exists a right to bodily autonomy because we have recognized that and respect that principle. But at the end of the day, that's just my way of being able to pull it away from a moral rights framework. So that's what I do. I base it in a positive understanding to look at the morals, not from a non-moral rights point of view, looking at an observation point of view. So yeah, jumping to that point. So a fetus is inside someone's body. I maintain that they have no obligation to keep it there. They have no duty to remain pregnant or to provide that fetus with a womb. So I don't grant a fetus rights because of a different argument I can get later.
I
But
see.
I don't grant
So
fetus
so in
rights.
this case, yeah, I'm not even getting into the whether fetus have rights right now. I just want to make sure I
Mhm.
understand this. So because the fetus is occupying space inside of the woman's body, the woman has the autonomy to reject the fetus from her body. That's
Okay,
essentially
that's fair
that's
enough.
is that essentially what you're saying there?
Yeah, yeah, that works. That works out. I think I
Okay.
would probably say more words, but that seems pretty concise. So yes, and
Okay.
because they have a justified claim to their body and a pre-established
Hmm.
one, therefore, and again, there was a time where they existed that wasn't pregnant. We know that deductively. We can say that is a fact that somebody who
Yeah, I
is
wouldn't dispute
pregnant
that.
was once not pregnant.
Yeah, correct. I
Okay,
wouldn't
correct.
dispute that. Yeah, so we
Yeah.
know for
So
sure that they weren't pregnant. Yeah, yeah. So like all those kind of like more common sense justifications, I'm fine with that. So I have a like a hypothetical I'd like to pose to you that I was thinking about. Let us assume for a second that you had conjoined twins, okay,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
they were driving in their car and they were in a car accident. The heart is on both sides. The one twin is dependent on the heart from the other twin. One of the twins ends up in a coma, the other one does not. Does the twin who is not in the coma, whose heart, if they were to separate these twins, be on that side, have a right to be separated?
So someone's in a coma.
Mm-hmm. One of the twins is
One
in a
twin that
coma,
has the heart
so
on
that
their
yeah,
side.
so they share a heart, meaning the
Mhm,
twin whose side the heart is not on still relies on the
mhm,
twin who has the heart. So
mhm,
the one is in a coma, and so they can't make any decisions on their own by your same logic. Why would the other
mhm.
twin then not be justified in being separated, even though it would kill the other?
Interesting. So that to me would look like they share the body, right? So
No,
they share the
well,
hurt.
but they
I
can
wouldn't
wait.
say
Wait, you
so.
have a right
Wait,
to your
one second,
body,
Andrew. Let
though.
me finish what I'm saying. One
Yeah,
second,
yeah. Go
Andrew.
ahead.
Let me finish what I'm saying. Under my understanding, when you're talking about, I think they're called I think it's called Thorapicus. Yeah, Thorapicus twins that they actually share at this joint chest, so they share that cavity. I would say that's the principal
Yeah, but
understanding
the
there.
fetus
So
shares
they
the
share
body
that.
too.
Well, one second, Andrew. I'm still talking.
Okay. But
Let me
I'm
finish.
just making the point like the
Well,
same
well,
thing would be
I'm gonna
analogous
interrupt
to
you.
what
You're,
you're
you're
saying.
you're interrupting a lot, so I'm gonna mute you while I finish what I'm saying. So, in this understanding,
My
I
God,
would
this
say they
guy.
share the heart, and I think that's something they've always shared. So, I think that would be something in a sense that, yeah, they may very well occupy this thing together and be individuals, but they both have an equal claim to this heart. So, my principle wouldn't necessarily help us make a decision here because I think both have a claim to that heart, an equal claim to that
Well,
heart.
okay,
But
can I
you,
respond though? So the thing is,
when I'm done talking,
I
Andrew,
thought you.
we're
I
gonna practice patience. So I
Oh
would
my
say that
God,
both
this
have
guy
an
is
equal
such a
claim to. All right,
douchebag,
Andrew, you have the
bro.
floor.
He's just a filibuster. Okay, so I mean, I'm not trying to be pedantic. I'm just usually trying to interject for clarification. So the thing
Well,
is,
yeah, take your notes and I got you.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, in this case, no, they're not sharing a heart. The heart's on one side. The other side's just dependent on it. It's dependent on the heart. So it's not shared in the conventional sense. It's on both sides of the body. It's only on one side of their body. But because of the nature in which they're conjoined, the other one gets the benefit of the heart on that other side. And if you are to make the autonomy argument, you would have to then
Mm-hmm.
apply it to the fetus as well. They also share a body. The fetus shares a
Mm-hmm.
body with mom and is dependent on mom's heart.
Okay.
Right? So in this case, why is it if one's in a coma, they're not actually sharing a heart? You're only separating the flesh, let's say in this instance, and one will die because of this. Why should the conjoined twin not be able to do that?
Yeah, so I'll just restate and then we can go, I'll go a little further this time. I think they do share a heart. There was never a time where either conjoined twin did not use that heart. So I am left to believe that they share that heart regardless of where the heart's located, whether it's in their foot, the
Then so
left
does the
foot,
fetus.
the right foot. Well, Andrew, you're gonna have to stop interrupting me, dude. You're gonna. I had no problem engaging with you, but just mute your mic and maybe take notes. But I don't interrupt you, so make sure you don't interrupt me. But I'm good with you, but just make sure you're not interrupting me. So I'll mute you this time just to help you out. But I still don't think that this can be said to be something other than sharing. Whether the heart is located in one side or other side, that doesn't change the fact that they share this and they've always shared this. In fact, from the conception, when they split, they've always shared something. And from the development of that heart, they've always shared that heart. So that doesn't change that. Trying to pull it towards the actual obligation of the mother, though, is different. The fetus has not always shared that womb with the mother. The fetus has not always been a part of that womb. The mother indeed was once without fetus, whether it was conjoined or not. So I think that while those do share similarities, they are not analogous. You have the floor, Andrew.
Yeah. So, well, you're actually just moving it out of the confines of the hypothetical by saying, no, I think they do share it. The heart's on one side. One of the twins has the heart on their side. The other one benefits from the heart pumping, right? Regardless of if you get the benefit of the heart, does not mean that the heart is shared. This would be the same exact thing in your instance for regardless of if the baby is getting, or what you call a fetus, is getting the benefit from the mother, you claim that's not sharing. But for some reason, in this instance, when the heart's on one side of the twin and the other one's getting the benefit from that, that is sharing. That makes no sense. It's actually a contradiction in your worldview, sir.
Okay, wonderful. So you have an issue with my sharing position. Well, I would argue that in this case, The mother may indeed have something in her womb, and there are things that are being maybe, given, donated, used by the womb. I mean, by the fetus in the womb. But sharing is not a term I would use to describe pregnancy. Occupation of the womb, sure. There are many things that happen there, interactions, but I do think the sharing thing does have more validity on the on the conjoined twin side. The conjoined twins were always that way. There was never a time where they didn't share a heart. We notice because if the other conjoined twin could not use that heart, it would not exist.
So, just so you know, and I'm sure you're aware of this, the heart is not formed immediately inside of a
Sure.
fetus. Therefore, they did
Yeah.
not always share a heart. That is false. Again, a contradiction in your
Well, from the
worldview.
time that
It
heart
doesn't
was
matter. Well, then from the
I'm
time of
sorry,
the
finish,
baby, it'd
finish,
be the
finish.
same thing. So then from the time of the baby, it's the same argument. So if you're going to say it's only from the time that the baby is introduced, and then you negate to say, well, wait a second, it's only the time the heart is introduced for the twins, you have another contradiction in your worldview.
Again, I fail to see the contradiction. There was never a time where a heart existed for the conjoined twins where they didn't share it. Can you maybe point to that time where there existed a heart for one and not the other?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the point. I'll explain.
So you cannot produce a
Well,
time
no,
where a
well,
heart
you can't for the baby
existed
either.
for one
You can't for the
and not
baby
the
either.
other.
It's the same argument both ways.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the conjoined twin, while I will agree with you, has some similarities here. The principal component here is that they've always shared that heart, and there was never a time where there was a heart that wasn't shared between those conjoined twins. There was
There
a
was.
time, though,
There
when the
was, though.
pregnant person
That's
did not
incorrect.
have something in their womb. And whether you use the sharing adjective to really try to describe what's happening here, regardless of what's happening, it is substantively different when it comes to the pregnant person and the conjoined
Oh,
twins.
okay, but this
So
doesn't make any sense. Like you're this is an actual contradiction. I'll show you. Yeah, all you're doing is you're trying to shift the language as though that helps you here, and now you've shifted your argument to say instead they've always shared the heart to since there was a heart they always shared it. Okay, great, but since there was a baby, the baby's always shared the mother. Since there was a heart they always shared it does not say that there was always a heart there to share. It's a performative contradiction, and you can't unfortunately rhetoric your way out of that.
since there was a baby, they've always shared it. Who is the they in this context?
So, the mother and the baby. So since there was a baby, they always shared, and since there was a heart, the conjoined twins always
Shared what?
shared resources, whatever they may be. And in this
Not
case, there's
always.
not sharing of the heart. It's just one gets the additional benefits of the resource of the heart, and just like the
Yeah.
baby gets the additional benefit of the resources of the mom. So the second that begins to happen, you have the same problem and conundrum with the heart. So unfortunately, here you have a
Okay.
contradiction.
I hear what you're saying, except for I need to point this out. The second the conjoined twins produced a heart, they both shared it. I mean, there was never a point where
What
they didn't
makes it
share the heart.
shared? Well, the second the
Well,
baby was introduced,
Andrew,
they're shared, right?
Andrew, I'm still talking. You're really bad at this.
Well, I'm
I'm
just
going to talk
asking
to
for
you.
clarification. Do
I
conversations
know
operate like
you're
this? And I
really
haven't been
wasting
cutting
me
you
on
off
talk.
much.
So
Come on.
Andrew, here it is. Here it is. I'm going. We're not doing good right now. You keep interrupting me, which is
You
fine.
inter-
People do it all the time, but I'm not going to put up with it.
like you
So I'm going
interrupt
to
back,
talk
and
to
it's
you.
fine. I don't even mind.
It's okay. It's cool, dude. I listen. I'm good. So I'll set our timer for 2 minutes because I think that's going to be how we're going to finish this. And I'll just say before I let you have the floor again, I do think it's important to note here that if we're talking about sharing anything, I will say yes, the fetus exists in that womb, but everything that's being shared at that point was once not shared. It belonged to someone else. So at anything, there's a loan happening. There is some type of, hey, you can use this. There is some type of benefit given, but not necessarily shared. But anyway, I get what you're saying, but I don't think that they actually are synonymous. You have the floor.
Well, you're at the mercy. This it's so illogical. It makes no sense. You're at the mercy of your own
Yeah,
logic.
sure.
You're at the mercy of your own logic here. So, if you make the claim, the first affirmative claim, that they have to be sharing something, right? In this case, if the heart's on the one twin side, the other one gets the benefit. I don't understand how that's any different than the baby's in the womb and they get the benefit. If one is sharing, the other has to be sharing. How could it not be? That's point one. The second is if the conditional is that blank thing did not exist, and then it did exist, and therefore there was autonomy which existed before, which gives additional autonomy. Now you have the same exact thing here. The heart still formed on one side, and before the heart was in use, it was still on one side. When they were born and the heart pumped its first beat, it was on one side. You have the same. You're at the mercy of the same logic here. It makes no sense. And I actually haven't heard a refutation except you're quibbling about what share means. Even though in the context here, hang on, I didn't interrupt you. Even though in the context of this, you yourself are essentially saying all that matters here is what my view of share is. When we apply it to the fetus in the heart, though, it's the same concept. So you must mean the same thing I mean.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I apologize for interrupting you. And yeah, I think that I made it very clear that my biggest issue here is that the term share here does indeed imply that the fetus and the fetus and the mother and the conjoined twin have the same relationship to their counterpart. In this case, the conjoined twins have always both had access to that heart. I think that's it. That heart was never at a time where only one had access to it. There was a time for the pregnant person where only the pregnant person had access to that womb. Can you contest that?
Yes, I can contest it. There was a time when, Alex, I'll answer.
Andrew,
you just told me to do that. You just told me to contest it.
I want you to be very clear. When was the time that the pregnant
before there was a heart, there was that time, and before there was a baby, there was that time.
When was the time that the pregnant person had to share their womb?
The second the egg was fertilized. Well, actually, the second there's an egg.
Cool. Was there a time when they didn't have to share their womb?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate talking.
And but how does that refute?
Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate.
How does that refute me?
Like, y'all,
how does that refute me?
Make sure that we are taking time to really
think about this. Why did you kick me? I don't want
to go in circles too long, y'all. I'm gonna start giving people like.
What the? I get kicked.
This is great.